Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Maryland Apex Accelerator webinar. Glad you could join us today. I'm your host, Yasmin Razak, and I'm the Marketing and Training Coordinator here. Today's topic is how to find and win no-bid contracts in your city or county, and it is led by Akiesha Foster, who is the founder of KeyToLife Professional Services, LLC. We will get started very shortly, and there will be opportunities for you to ask Akiesha your questions by typing them in the chat box on your screen. And we will pause for Q&A throughout the next 2 hours to help you out with your questions. As always, this is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel, and a copy of the slides will be emailed to you after the webinar. For those of you who are not, for those of you who are not familiar with the Maryland Apex Accelerator, it is our mission to help Maryland businesses to compete in federal, state, and local government procurement processes. Our services are no cost to you. So if you'd like to speak to a counselor, please complete our application form on our website. All you need is to have an established business in the state of Maryland. And then once you submit it, we will assign a counselor to work with you. Right now, the waiting list is about 30 days. So we do appreciate your patience, but we will get to you. Okay, we are going to have the first hour, as always, of instruction, and then we will pause, have a break for 5 minutes, and then resume. So welcome, Akiesha. The floor is yours.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome for another training. And in this day, it is so important that now more than ever that we focus on diversifying our portfolios, because look at so much going on right now. That's why all we teach in our counseling sessions, we teach all our small businesses, don't put all of your contracts in just one area. You have to diversify that portfolio. And this training is here to help you with that. Okay, yeah, I'm your instructor today, President and CEO of KeyToLife Professionals. I have over 22 years in the government sector and doing the federal and then state. And, I do the GovCon coach, I do proposal, and, I'm a former procurement counselor. So I understand everything that you're going through and the different things that is happening. So let's get right to it. Before we dive into the material, let me just give you a quick overview of what we'll be covering today. Okay, we're going to start off with the definitions because many people do not understand what a no bid contract is. And the no bid contract has clear guidelines that we have to follow. And then, so my goal is to give you a good understanding of that. And as we continue to build these trainings out for you, please put those comments in the chat, all those questions that you have, because that is going to make the training that much more, because I don't know what you don't know, and when you make your requests known, then we're able to really customize our training for our different audience. And this is for new small businesses getting started, because most of them need the foundational, the practical understanding of why the government does what it does. And given that so much is changing, it is paramount that we continue to have these trainings, continue to stay abreast on what's new, what's going on. Okay. Then next, we're going to talk about why no bid contracts exist. There's a reason why they exist. All right. Understanding the reason behind them will help you spot opportunities. And many times, oh, I just want a no bid contract, but we don't understand what we're saying and why the no bid. Then we're going to cover the types of the no bid contracts, okay? So you can recognize them when they come out. That is key. You have to be able to recognize them. Then we're going to go over the regulations that govern no bid contracts in Maryland and its counties. Now, each county does it differently. And that's why I always want to know, okay, so if you're in Anne Arundel County, like me, I'm in Anne Arundel County, then I'm focusing on procurements in my area in Anne Arundel County. You need to know those rules. You need to know the regulations. You need to know how you be set up for their bid their opportunities notification, because you get the notifications through Emma, but still the counties still require things. So especially like Prince George County, they require a lot of stuff too. So that's why it's important that you understand the regulations in your county. Then I'm going to walk you through the key justifications for awarding a no bid contract. Those no bid contracts. And then after I walk you through, it's because it's critical, because then when you know how they are awarded, then you can align your business according to that criteria. So that way you can position, whether you're trying to do is position your company to win. And then we're going to talk about how to secure a no bid contract and just a clear action plan on each step. You just take one step at a time, and then I'll definitely, so throughout, like I always do, I have the Q&A. So if you have a question, just put it in the chat. And I don't look at the chat as I'm going through training, because it would distract me. So that's why I take the breaks at certain times, so that way we can answer questions. So we will answer your question, but we just have to answer it when we get to a good breaking point. And then at the end, I'll have the final Q&A for anything that wasn't covered throughout the training. And then you put those questions in, and then we take those questions and then we revise the training, because we want to continue to give you fresh content. We want to continue to give you things that's going to help you win in the government marketplace. And you already heard that to get in with your procurement counselor, it takes at least sometimes 30 days. And so we have these different trainings to keep you just getting to the next step, keeping you pushing forward to make your business successful. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, before we get started, let me do a quick poll. Now, what is your primary goal for attending this webinar? Is it to learn how to find no bid contract opportunities, or understand how to qualify as a preferred provider, in the status, or to learn how to position your business for you already know about the no bids, but you're just trying to position your business accordingly? And if it's other, just put in the comments, other, whatever that reason is, because what I do is I read those comments at the end of this session, and it helps to clarify questions that I could have asked, or poll questions that I could. So just if you have something other than what I've already put, put it in the chat, and we'll look at that later. Okay, I think we've got everybody. Okay. I think, all right. It looks like everybody. I'm gonna give you about one more minute. I believe we have everybody now. I can go ahead. Okay, so right here we have about 63%. Most of you want to learn how to find the no bid contract opportunities. And then the rest of you want to learn how to position your business. You know a little bit about it, and you just want to position your company to win those no bid contracts. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, understanding what is a no bid contract. All right, a no bid contract is formally known as a source contract. You hear people say that all the time. Well, I just want to win a no bid. I mean, there's still stuff you have to do. Okay, it's just basically a sole source. It's just coming directly to your small business. Okay, it's a contract that is awarded without a competitive bidding process. That's it. That's all it is, because only one vendor is deemed capable of fulfilling the contract's requirements. All right. And why is it called a no bid? In, in a typical government contract, the agency will post a public notice on platforms like Emma, because that's what we use for the state of Maryland. Emma, this training is for the state of Maryland, and that's the e-Maryland marketplace. And then asking for bids or proposals from multiple vendors. So what it is instead of doing that and doing it the normal way that we do it, this is because we need this quickly, or it might be an emergency or something like that. So in a no bid contract, the agency does not seek for multiple offers. They want to select a vendor directly. That's it. Basically it's just like if you would the GSA schedule. It's a streamlined approach of going after other businesses. Now the key characteristics of it. So to make sure you understood exactly what's involved, is no formal competitive process. Justification is required, and to explain why no competition is possible. Okay. So that's why you won't see a lot of no bid contracts at times, because you have to justify it. It has to be a reason for it being a no bid contract, because we want to make sure that you understand what it's about. So I'm going to start with the basics. A no bid contract, also known as a source, is a contract awarded without competition, right? So that means the government determines that only one vendor is reasonably can meet this contract requirements, and that's not the case at many times. Multiple vendors can meet the contract. Now, when you get a no bid contract, the no bid contracts are different from the regular contracts because most government contracts are competitive. That's the only difference. And then the government posts a solicitation, and then, with the competitive, they receive multiple bids and then they select the best value. But in a no bid situation, the government bypasses that competitive process and directly awards the contract. Now, I know you may be wondering, why will the government bypass competition? Well, I'm about to cover that now because I wanted to make sure I gave you good examples of that, for instance. So let's say example one, Maryland Department of Health, okay, they're looking for medical supplies. Now, this was one very good example when COVID happened. Now, during COVID, the Maryland Department of Health issued a no bid contract for ventilators. All right. Personal property, the PPE, the personal protective equipment. So that was like an example of it, right? Only one vendor was able to meet that demand within their required time frame. That is the reason why they were able to do that. It was only one company, a supplier, but as it started going, then more people were able to meet those demands. But this one particular one was because the required time frame. That was the reason why they were able to do that. Now, the agency bypassed that competitive process because the urgency and the lack of alternate suppliers. That is the reason why. So that's why so many people always say, well, I just want to know big contract. Well, okay, so do you know the rules and do you understand why they have the no bid? All right. Now, this is a classic example of a no bid contract. Okay. An emergency situation where only one vendor could meet the timeline and supply the requirements. Now, I got another example for you because I just believe in putting the examples gives you more clarity on what these type of contracts are, and then so that way you understand what is involved. So now this one was the Maryland Department of Transportation. What they needed was traffic cameras. Okay. The Maryland Department of Transportation awarded a no bid contract for traffic cameras because the existing traffic monitoring system was proprietary. So that's another instance of when it would be a no bid contract because they had to, because the only original vendor had the rights. Okay. They had the technical expertise to maintain the systems. That is another reason for having the no bid contract. So you see why it's important to understand what is a bid or no bid, the no bid contract. Okay, so now in this case, the no bid contract was justified because of the proprietary rights. No other vendor could legally or technically provide the service. So what I want you to get from that, the key takeaway is no bid contracts are awarded when competition is not practical and or not possible. due to specific circumstances, such as a single vendor hold exclusive rights, the compatibility with existing systems is required because you can't put a new system in, with traffic cameras. Everything's is set. I mean, it would just be too disruptive. So that's why they were able to do that. And then an emergency or public safety issue exists. Okay. So that's why I'm hoping that you're understanding more now when you hear the no bid contract and that it's making sense to you. Okay, so now why do you think no bid contracts are controversial? Because what happens is they're hesitant to award these contracts because we have to have the competition. It encourages everyone, keeps the first of all, it keeps the price from being inflated because if it's a monopoly or only one person or one vendor does it, the price normally goes up. It's not competitive. Then it lacks transparency. And then the government does not want to risk the thing of favoritism because it's quick and then everybody's protesting and all that stuff. And then now we have to stop work and then so on and so on. So now the common pitfalls that you have to watch out for is if the agency fails to provide a strong justification, that contract can be challenged. It's going to be protested. I'm telling you, I've seen it too many times. The contracts are protested. And so now no one gets the contract. They have to wait until it is made a final decision or ruling has. All right. The pricing challenges. I mean, without competitive pressure, prices just keep getting higher and higher. We're looking at that. Everything is getting higher and higher. The market rates is, and then so no one can afford it. And then so there's another problem. And then the vendor performance issues. If selective vendor underperforms, now who else are they going to get to do the work? Because they were the only person the only company that could provide that service. So now you understand just a little bit of why it's important to understand what a no bid contract is. And so before I transition to the next slide, I just wanted to make sure you understand that. And then there was no questions before I moved on to the next because I have a few more examples, but I wanted to make sure you understood what a no bid contract. And then I'm going to go deeper into why it exists and why we use it, but why the government avoids using it so much. And because we're going to get down there to it. Okay, so Yasmin, I'm going to stop real quick and make sure there's no questions before I move, because this is a lot, and I understand it is.
Hi, Keisha. Yeah, no questions that I can see. So
Mhm.
just like to welcome everybody who's joined us and let you know that you can type out your questions in the chat box.
All right, let's keep going. Okay, so why? Let's get to the next one. So why no bid contracts exist? Okay, so now the no bid contracts awarded when competition is not feasible due to unique. It could be a unique or proprietary products and service because a lot of people, they'll go out there and create a product and they want to protect it. And then, but now you done used it with the government, so no one else does that. And then, so now we're just have to keep using that same vendor again, but you have to justify it. Okay. Then the time sensitive or it's an emergency need, specialized skills like engineers and so forth and so on. So specialized skills and qualifications. So sometimes you might have to have specialized skills. So like me, I had to have a certification because I was doing contracting. So that's the reason why that's why I explain deeply what is a no bid contract. So you understand you can't just win this. You have to have a specialized skill. You have to have qualifications, the capable, uh, does that capability exists, with another industry or infrastructure. So that's why I want to, but let me go over exactly. So Why governments avoid competition sometimes? Because most governments contracts are required to go through a competitive bidding process. It ensures fairness and transparency. It allows the government to get the best value for the taxpayers' dollars. Okay, and it encourages small business participation. But in certain cases, the government is legally allowed to bypass the competitive process. And this is where no bid contracts come in. So understand there's six according to I believe the state. Now federal, there's a six or seven. It's not right on the top of my head right now, but you can go to the reason you're going to go to Colmar, the Maryland state, and they give you the reasons why, and that is the sole source. So let me go to the next slide so you can see. Hold on, let me make sure that's the next slide. Okay. All right. So the types of no bid contracts they have in the state of Maryland, they have the preferred provider contracts. Then they have the statewide or master contracts. It's almost like federal, but state has their own different rules and regulations. And state calls theirs indefinite quantity contracts, the IQCs. And then they have the direct awards, then the emergency procurements, and then a set aside contracts, the small business reserve, the minority enterprise, MBE, and then the veteran owned, and I believe the WBE, but I wasn't tracking that one, but I will definitely add it to the slide because I know they were working on it. But I know for federal, for a fact, it's the women owned small business. So when we talk about the sole source, so one example, I want to talk about the sole source one. It's make sure I go to that slide. Oh, those are just the regulations. So I'm gonna go back. We'll come back to that, but I want to talk about the one source exists. That's the single source. That means sometimes only one company or individual can provide the required product service because it was patent protection. So those pharmaceuticals, that's why I brought that COVID example back up about the pandemic when we had those patents for the pharmaceutical products, then exclusive licensing, and then specific software or proprietary technology. So the traffic camera. So that's why I wanted to give those examples. And then another example, the Maryland Department of Information Technology awarded a no bid contract to Cisco for cybersecurity infrastructure because Cisco held the proprietary rights to the network technology. If only one company holds the legal rights to provide the product or service, the government can justify a no bid contract. So I'm going to take you to the page for the preferred contractors because what I want to make sure you understand is where you get all this information from. So I'm going to take it over to the internet right now so that way you can see. So now because we have so many counties, each one has a different rules. So like me, for instance, I fall in Anne Arundel County, so I learned everything about the Anne Arundel County. If you're in any other county, Carroll County, St. Mary's County, whatever, you need to learn about the county rules because it's not always the same as state because Prince George County does a lot of things different. And so what we do in the training is we give you the overview and then we show you where to go get the information and then you can do the rest of the research because it has to be customized for your business. No two businesses are the same. Everyone has different areas, expertise. Everyone has different certifications. Some people want to stay in their local area, probably 30-mile radius. Others don't. So I always recommend that you stay aware of the resources out here. You have to learn about your county, and you can do that use the official websites. Always use the official websites to learn about which county that you're in if you're going after no bid contracts. Then the next one is before we keep on the procurement. So be aware of the Maryland state's procurement mandate, how we have to do things, because many times most small business don't understand that we have to use the preferred vendors first. And so it's just like in federal. And the preferred vendors contract. So a preferred provider contracts are agreements where the state is legally required to purchase certain goods and service from designated vendors before considering other suppliers. So many times we'll say, well, I don't understand why it's taken so long, or why the solicitation hasn't been put out, or why something hasn't occurred. Is because as a contracting professional, you have to go to the preferred vendors first. And so the way you can find out that information is to visit these websites that I have bookmarked in here. And it's just the procurement .maryland.gov. So you have the videos, you'll have everything to go back to look at for this, because this is for the new small businesses who getting started, who's learning the basic fundamentals. And then as we progress and I get all the questions and the different things going around, then I'll be able to customize the training, so I'll know what questions are in the community as we continue to make the training better for you. So they give you the information for emergency. Hold on, let me go down for you. The emergency procurements, all the different procurements on here. It tells you all this different things of here. So that way you can really get an understanding of what all is involved. But where you want to focus is, that's if you want to just know about the program. It's for the vendors and small businesses. You would just click here, and then you will go to this page to get more information, because you have to be certified. This is where you're going to locate the bid boards, your small business reserve certifications, because a lot of you are still not certified. That minority business, you have to be, for some of those requirements, you have to be the minority business enterprise, and then also for veteran owned. Then we also have you to go and check out the training and insights for tips, because they also have the training how to respond those solicitations, because we're not going to do all those different trainings, but we want you to be aware of where the training is and where to sign up for the training. Okay. And then of course you already know the Maryland PTAC, and that's what we're doing now, is give you all the different training you need to find these different opportunities. Then the next one is the mandate, what I was telling you about, the preferred vendors. Let me scroll down for you. Okay, the state. And so that's why I tell you, before we can even engage, these are some of the things we have to do. And we're going to take you to those existing contracts, because if you want to get on the existing contracts, you have to go through the process. And then I'll show you that page as well for the existing contracts. Now, for the legal basis, the preferred vendor, so far we have the Blind Industry Services of Maryland. So you'll see that as well. And like I said, you just keep going down through the information, and you'll see right here, these are the preferred vendors that they have to go through first. And then after they have went through here, then we're allowed to solicit. So that's why I say, when people say that they want the no bid contracts, they don't understand what all involves with it, but you have to position for these no bid contracts. Okay. Now the state, and let me go to next one, to the statewide or master contracts. Now, the statewide or master contracts are pre-negotiated contracts that allow multiple agencies to purchase the same goods and service under standardized terms and pricing. So it's the same. Let me go to that page so you can see that one as well. Okay, that one is already. Okay, here it is. All right, so then this one is under the, so when you're looking for the information for the different bids and how to get in those programs, you will have to go in here and go to these different sections, and it provides you with, you'll have the contracts run one, then you'll have all the policies and guidance, then the service catalog, the cybersecurity, and then of course the about, DOIT, the Department of Information Technology, and if you need any help. Because I know that the contract, everything's taken longer to get you in, but because of all the cuts and the different people's leaving, we have to make sure you get your training so that way, while you're waiting for your sessions, you can just continue to attend your training. Okay, so now let's go to the state contracts. And all you have to do is just navigate. Okay, here we go. So you can see. All right, so the state contracts are located right here. And then you just go in and you will look up the different contracts that are out there. Now, like I said, we will be talking about positioning for them, but I just want you to know where everything is at because they're looking for companies that are unique. And if you all doing the same thing, even the janitorial services, they have the janitorial services contract, and then you can get on that. So you'll notice why sometimes you do not see a lot of the opportunities out there because they have the master contracts and they want pre-vetted companies that's already on there. That way they're able to do direct awards, and then that way there's no bid involved. So that's when you hear that no bid, that's what you are hearing. Okay, so you've seen that one. And then, so like I said, you will go to the statewide, you just click on them, they'll take you to the different statewide contracts. So you'll know which ones are out there. And you continue to go down each one, the hardware contracts, professional services contracts, software contracts, and the telecommunications contract. And then at certain times, they will let you know, I believe on Emma, on the announcement, when they will be taking on new vendors for the different contracts. So you can't just, it's just not, I come in and get on the contract when I want to. You have to be on the contracts. Okay, and then the indefinite quantity contracts. I want to talk about that one as well. And then here's an example of the Baltimore County government. The Baltimore County government has different ones. And then the next part, I'll go to Emma and just walk through how they are awarding the contracts on Emma after I finish the PowerPoint. But I'm going to stay on the PowerPoint so that way I keep the training on task. But the indefinite quantity contracts, the IDQ allows the state to order an unspecified quantity of goods or service over a defined period. So that's the reason why they have that. In Maryland, sole source procurements is permissible only when a required service, supply, or construction item is available from a single source. This determination is made by the procurement officer and must be documented in writing, including the basis for the sole source decision. So you see that we can't just do a sole source without a justification and a reason why. Key conditions for sole source procurement is unique availability. The item of the service is available from only one source, such as proprietary products and services, excuse me. Then number two, compatibility to the requirements. When compatibility with existing equipment, accessories, or replacement parts is essential, and only one vendor meets these requirements. Then number three, trial or testing need. The item is needed for a trial use or testing is available from only one source. And then the resale purposes, the item is procured for resale and is available from only one source. And then finally, public utility service. Certain public utility services are available from only one source. So those are key conditions for sole source. And that's why I said you can't just do that. And that's why we had to have this training because a lot of clients kept wanting to just say, I just want to do a no bid contract, but there's requirements that you must meet in order to do a no bid contract. Now we have to go over the approval process. Before an awarding a sole source contract, the procurement officer must obtain approval from the head of the unit and any approvals required by law. So it has to go up that's why it takes so long to get certain things done, because it has to have so many different approvals. Determination and the basis for the using the sole source procurement must be documented in writing. And that's just to keep away with the protests, because then the contract is going to get stopped anyway. Then the post award not more than 30 days after execution and approval of a sole source contract, the procurement agency must publish a notice of the award in Maryland Marketplace. And that's where we're going to be going over next to see where they're publishing them. The requirement does not apply to source procurements that fall under small procurement regulations. So it's not for the small procurement regulations, it's only for the big buys. And then the procurement officer must maintain a record of all source procurements by fiscal year, additional justifications. So we have to care for, so that's why it's important. So they're just making sure that you understand why we're having the no bids, because the no bids are not just for any situation. It's for emergencies. It's for unique things. It's not just for everything. Okay. And then the situational factors under limited circumstances when only one vendor has the practical ability to meet the state's requirement. And that's the reason why they use it. And then at times you will see them use it for bridge contracts too, to continue to work under an expired or void contract to allow time to conduct a new competitive procurement. So sometimes that will happen as well. Now, the single bids treated as a sole source per the COMAR. So you just go back to the regulations for that, and it allows for the negotiation, price, and delivery. So I don't want to stay too long on that, but I just wanted you to understand that the no bid contract is it's not as easy as many think it is to win. You have to really be positioned to win those no bid contracts, and then it's all about relationships as well. Getting to know that organization, getting to understand the organization, what they're asking for you. Okay, so now that we've understand, let me go to the next slide. I want to make sure that I covered everything for that one. Okay, and we talked about the regulations. Maryland's procurement regulations classify no bid as sole source procurements under the COMAR, the Code of Maryland Regulations, state level procurement rules, including sole source contracts. And then also the Maryland State Finance and Procurement Article 13-107 authorized the use of sole source contracts when justified in writing and approved by the agency's procurement office. And for each local procurement, you have to look at those local procurement codes. Okay, so now we're going to go to the next one. Now, the compatibility, because I want to talk about the compatibility. I believe that's on the next slide, so we can go over. This is where I'm going to spend most of the time on the rest of the slides, is the key justification for sole source contracts, because no bids are sole source contracts, because you're not bidding, because it's not a competitive bidding, but you still will have to do the technical work that goes behind it. So we talked about the number one, the only sole source exists is the single award. And that was because there was only one company. And we talked about that was Cisco. Now we're talking about number two, the compatibility with existing equipment or systems, the technical justifications. A contract may be awarded without competition if the new product or service must work with an existing system. Only the original vendor has the technical expertise to support or integrate with the system. Okay. An example of that is, so now we're on the Maryland Department of Transportation awarded a no bid contract for the new traffic cameras because they needed to integrate with existing camera system. Now, the manufacturer was a specific company. However, if switching the vendor would cause the disruption, that's when we talked about the increased costs, okay, the technical failures. The government cannot justify a no bid contract. You see, So that's the reason why we talked about the compatibility, that when you have the Cisco's, the Microsoft, and all those other ones, it's going to be imperative that you understand. Okay. Now, the emergency, number three, is the emergency procurement. Okay. The urgency, the public safety. Is there an imminent threat to the public health? And we've seen that with COVID. There was a public health safety. I mean, we had to shut down everything. We had to order all the PPE and safety equipment to help them. The security, the government can award a no bid contract without delay. Now, this typically includes natural disasters, public health emergencies, and infrastructure failures. And in emergency situation, competition is often bypassed to save time and protect the public. That same example, during COVID-19 pandemic, the Maryland Department of Health awarded a no bid contract for those ventilators and PPE. Now, if the government needed to act quickly to prevent the harm, they have the authority to bypass the bidding process. That's the only way they were able to do that, because they have the authority to bypass. Now we're going to move on to the specialized knowledge or expertise, the professional justification. So that was if a vendor possesses unique expertise that cannot be sourced from others, the government can justify a sole source award. So that is another case when you can do the sole source justification. Okay, so now specialized training. So many of them have the Lean Sigma, the PMP, or any kind of specialized training that you need, but a lot of people have that. So it has to be really unique. That's almost like when they're doing the SBR, the small business, when they're doing all those different innovation and different things of that nature, because that's what they're mainly trying to focus on, those sole source. But not always. Sometimes they can do that, sometimes they can't. So that's the key with that. Now, the Maryland Department of Education awarded a no bid contract to a specialized curriculum developer because they were the only provider with experience with developing that type of educational content. So that was the reason why the Maryland Department of Education awarded a no bid contract for that specialized curriculum developer, because they the only one could do it. So these are the events when they can. Now, if the vendor's specialized knowledge creates a strategic advantage, it qualifies for a no bid contract. If it's not, I mean, the government is looking for the best interest for them. And it's hopeful that you try to be a win-win, but it's not always going to be that case, because they have to answer to why they're using taxpayer dollars to just sole source. And then with all the different changes and the canceling of the contracts, they're canceling the contracts with the state as well. So we're having to really teach small businesses how to really position themselves so that they are able to win opportunities that's not easily replaced or easily, because they have so much of that service. Um, that way you can just have more confidence. Nothing is sure. That's why we teach our small business clients to diversify their portfolio, to have the state opportunities, then those different counties, and then also the federal, and then commercial. So it's encompassing, that you understand that you have to have a diversified portfolio. So then we talked about the specialized, but what about um, every now and then for the public safety? That's the one I wanted to cover. I didn't put on the slide. The public safety or public interest requirements. That one is the government may award a no bid contract if a product or service is essential to protect the public. So that is another instance, because with federal, it's the same way. You have those national opportunities. So it just depends on what the situation is and the circumstances is. Is it going to affect the security when we have those breaches, or is it the cybersecurity? Because more now than ever, we're getting hacked. We're the peoples are losing the information. So that's why the public safety, they have added that one as well. And then for public transportation, that is definitely key because of the bus systems or the different things that the public needs. So we definitely have to be aware of that. And I believe I had an example for that one as well too. Okay, yes, I did. The Maryland Department of Public Safety awarded a no bid contract for body armor to a specific manufacturer because that product was tested and approved for safety compliance. So that was one instance, and especially in federal, because we support the war fighters on service members, Army, military, Marine. They had to do a lot of the body armors for federal. So with state, we focus more on just that state and what's the need for the state versus federal. We're doing deployments, we're doing all those different things, and that's why the requirement was a little bit different, and the different specialties that they needed for that, because we do the ballistic and the armors and the protection, the up armor vehicles and stuff like that. But with state is a little different, so that's why you have to go research what the state needs, what are the needs that you have to provide that service for. Because if there's no need for the service, then you just building a business that no one's going to buy the service. And I've seen that too many times. They done built a whole business and no one is providing that service, and then they go out of business. And then next we have the unique artistry or professional services. All right, those, okay, some contracts are awarded based on unique creativity or the professional qualifications. This one is the legal services, consulting, art or creative projects, expert testimonies, and different things of that. So like if you are being an expert witness for especially for the lawyers, I've seen a good amount of those. And then for the auditing for different state organization. But one example I found was too, Baltimore City awarded a no bid contract to a legal firm that has previously handled high profile city litigation cases. So that was one of the reasons why, and where you can find all this information is on Emma. And I'm gonna show you that part next, but I'm just gonna finish going over all of the justifications. And then if the vendor's professional or creative talent is unique, the government can justify the bid. And then, of course, we all know about the certifications. If you do not have your certifications, then you cannot go after those contracts that are awarded according for your certifications. Because I had a call the other day, a client had found something very good that they wanted to bid on, and this is what they do, but they started working on the proposal, started getting everything done because the vendor reached out to them. However, they didn't have the certification. And I mean, this was a great opportunity for them, but they didn't have the certification. So you can have all the those different categories, but if it's for a minority owned business, or if it's for a small business reserve and you're the only sole source out there, that could be a problem if that is the requirement, that it has to be a SBR. And then they'll just keep looking for someone else to go after that opportunity. And that's not what you want. So now that I've defined what these no bid contracts are, now I want to talk about um, just how do you position yourself to win these contracts? Because one of the biggest reasons I see so many people fail to position themselves in one of these areas is it's everybody can do it. So they feel like, well, I'm gonna go get this sole source, but everybody can do it. But you haven't positioned your company. You don't hold the patent. You don't have the legal rights to the product. You can't ask vendors for anything, for no information or anything of that nature. So I've seen this situation, but I'm not sure, have, you know, any of you seen this same situation where you were able to get a sole source because you held one of these opportunities? And if you are, I would love to hear about it, because most times we don't have enough examples of people who are winning the sole source, who are able to have existing equipment. In our last session, we had someone on the call who had done the drones, and that was a success story. So what we're trying to do is get more input from when you're attending these classes. So these classes, so we can have these examples, and then other examples that I got from my experience, but I want to get the examples from the people who's attending the webinars as well, because that way you can see that this actually works, that you can see that if I put in the work, while I do have the specialized, and then I've built a relationship with this agency, now what do I do with it next that I've built a relationship with this agency? And I want to continue to walk through those examples, because that was a very interactive session, and I had a lot of people come online and give a lot of good examples, and then also gave us good questions to take back and add to the training next time we give that training, because it really helped a lot of people. And then the last thing, common things I see that is not going, people just not understanding what they are. You know, they're only those four types of contracts, and that's those with the state. Now that's why I say with the state, because it's the preferred provider contracts, the statewide and master contracts, the indefinite quantity contracts, IQCs, and then the agency Pacific contracts. So that's why you have to make sure you understand what those about before you can, because that will determine if you are able to get a sole source. Okay. All right, and I'm going to stop right there to make sure I don't have any other questions before I proceed, because I'm going to pause at the top of the hour. That's when we're going to take our 5-minute break, and then I'm going to pull up Emma so we can start doing, going over the Emma and how you look for these different opportunities. And then we still have to discuss how you position for these opportunities.
Thanks, Akiesha. We do
Mhm.
have a couple of questions.
Okay.
First one is, we are a woman-owned small business. Will I need to do a separate registration for women-owned in Maryland?
Well, the women owned in Maryland, it they were doing it the WBE through, it was a service for the WBE, because I was focusing mostly on the small business reserve, the minority, because I hadn't seen any woman WBEs mostly in Emma. And I can pull that up when we do the training. I'm definitely making a note for that, so I can show you if they're still doing, because I know it was for federal, but I will definitely have to research for state, because I'm tracking the SBR, the MBE, and the veteran owned. So I will definitely check when we pull up and do our exercise for the Emma about the WBE.
Okay,
I,
thanks.
I
And then,
added that one for a note. Okay.
great. The next
Mhm.
question is, if we have some unique offerings or services, is there an office in Maryland that we can coordinate to bring our offering to the right person?
Well, that's the same thing. That's that getting to know that agency. So when you go back to let me go back to the internet. Okay, so when you go back to the slide for getting to know those agents, because they have the excuse me, they have the doing business as and the vendor resources. So I'm going to just use Baltimore County, for example. The vendors can't just call and have a meet and greet. You have to have a reason why you're meeting them. Is it for a requirement that you've seen on the Maryland procurement state forecast that they said they were going to do a sole source, or was it an urgent requirement that came out that you are responding to? What was the reasoning for the communicating? Because they won't communicate unless there's a forecast, an opportunity just to introduce yourself. They're gonna um, that they're not gonna just do that one. But that's why I said, what is the reasoning for it? And that way I can give a more clear understanding.
Okay, we have one similar question to that last one,
Mhm, mhm.
the previous one, sorry, which is we are certified WOSB and EDWSB through SBA. Will we also have to certify as WBE for Maryland, or is there reciprocity?
No, the state makes you research. They make you certified. Now that I know because I'm registered as a veteran-owned small business for federal. Then they made me register again with Maryland for state. And then if you go to, say you was in New Jersey, you will have to register with their uh because they have different requirements. They want you to do different things. They want to see different things. I thought my stuff would just go over to the state, but that was not the case. They said no, I had to apply. So everything doesn't, you have a checklist basically for everything. That's why I told you what each state or, and then by the way, local. Prince George County was like, well, you have to register for Prince George County too to get their certification to go after opportunities with theirs. So you will have some counties that have you certified with that county as well. So it was like I had to get all these different certifications just to bid on these opportunities because everybody's vetting you because everyone has different requirements. So everybody got a different criteria for the vetting process, if you will. I mean, it's hard, but I mean, that's how we're doing it.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Now, before we get ready to go on our 5 minute break, I want to talk about the last thing was about those different preferred and state master contracts, those pre-negotiated contracts. I always recommend when they have the open season for you to get on those contracts, try to get on those contracts. I just worked with a client about last year who got on that state contract, and that way you're able those master contracts so that way you can get those source because they'll reach out to you and offer you the service if you have what they're looking for, that specialty. But in order to know what they're looking for, you have to do the research. You have to go look and see what they've been awarding those contracts for. What are those specialties? What are those sole source opportunities out there? Because there's not many anymore. We used to have so much more, but because of the different administration, a lot of things have changed. And a lot of things have changed as we were putting together the training. So that's why I said if you have to research every time. We've a lot of contracts have been cut, and so I didn't want to start the training off with doom and gloom, but you have to be aware that a lot of those direct awards, a lot of those disadvantaged because of the executive orders and different things that are going around. We had to really pivot and change and have people go look at the resources and see has it changed, and then what is the process, and it's still the same process because so much has changed. Okay. And then so the last thing before we go on our break, and then I'm going to pull up Emma. Uh I'm gonna go over a few more examples of what each and every one of those no bids, or if you will, just sole source are opportunities and how to position for those opportunities, and then making sure you have what the federal mostly do, you always use your capability statement, but more what I'm seeing in the state is they want you to be able to explain it and those technical capabilities. And then if you can't explain it in those techno cable, now they're going to orals because so many people are using the AI and chat GPT. So now they're starting to make you do the oral presentations as well. So even if they were to do the sole source to you, they're still going to ask you for the different things and the requirements. They're going to need to verify that you, in fact, can do the work. So you still will have to put some kind of action with that. So that way they can verify that you, in fact, are able to perform the service. Okay, Yasmin, we at the top of the hour.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to go on a 5 minute break. So we'll see you back in 5 minutes.
Okay, thanks. Okay, welcome back, everyone. So, next slide. Okay, how to secure a no bid contract. So, I kept it very simple. You have to build the relationships, engage with the procurement officers. They always tell us that it's the same every time because you have to know who's responsive, who's not responsive, who's checking their emails, who's not, who's still there, who's still available, who's still at that organization. With so much has changed, it's definitely important that you understand the landscape. Too many times we have all just went and contacted the people. They don't contact us, or the procurement officer. Four or five other people been contacting the procurement officer. I don't know. But the simple fact of the matter is, we have to continue to try to build those relationships because everyone is trying to contact that same individual. Now, step two, we have to position ourselves as a sole source, develop proprietary solutions or specialized expertise. We are all doing the same thing, but the largest have it down packed. We're still trying to figure it out. We're still trying to get the information, the solutions. Then you're offering a service that they're not even buying. So you definitely have to develop a proprietary solution, specialized expertise, and that way you can be the person that they call when they need the traffic cameras or the other uh, for instance, because I want to use that example again with the Maryland Department of Health, the medical counseling services. The Maryland Department issued that sole source contract to a health consulting firm for data analytics. So that was one of the things that I found when I was doing my research in Emma to prepare for this training, to give you examples of sole source. How do you find state sole source? Because when you see that they're not actually doing as many sole source when I did the research. So that's why it was a challenge to make sure I get everyone to understand what the sole source is, or the direct award. You can call it no bid contract. It's all the same. It's not as easy to win as it was before. And so it is important now that we be more familiar on those different solutions. So how we worked with that client was the contract was specific. It was unique to that agency reporting requirements. So what we did, we went in Emma. Okay, so that's what you do. So then let me stop right here because we're on step two. Then I'm going to go back to Emma. So let me pull up Emma for you so I can walk you through. So, because what I'm learning is I can teach it all day long, but when I walk through the process, then questions are being asked. Then that is specific to no bid contract, because we're talking about sole sources and how to uniquely position your company. So then you go to Emma, then you go to the public solicitations. All right, so the public solicitations, but what's happening is we're not going diving down into the advanced search to look. These are what's out now, but then you have to look out what have they awarded, the reasons why, and what type. Is it the SBR? And just like I keep telling everyone, that's why I only teach what they're teaching us or training us in the sessions, because with the WBE, I haven't been seeing the WBE. The only one have been seeing is the SBR, the MBE goals, the VSBE goals, the DBE goals, and the MBE sub goals, and then the SBE. So that's why I'm teaching what they have out here to, that way you'll know exactly. Then when you go in here and putting your keywords in, but the keywords doesn't work all the time. So that's why you have to understand, use these tools and resources to understand, do they work, number one, or do you have to go in and do the category research? Okay, which is your NAICS code? And then so like me, I'm 8,000, the 8 0 0 0 0 0. And so all my opportunities are coming from there because it's during the management. So knowing your codes and putting them in there. So when you go do and you see all the requirements out here, you've already put your code in, and then you're looking at what is currently out here. So we can start specializing on, okay, so they're always looking for pump parts, or they're always looking for think pads or emergency. So, like this one, emergency prepared support. That might be a sole source right there because normally they're using the word urgent, sole source. That means we need it now. It's but that's what I'm telling you. You're not utilizing the system. So when we utilize these systems and learn how to use them. So let me go through and finish doing this. So then you go down and you find the opportunity that is for you. Okay. So that's why I always do the research on here. They tell you what's on here. So when you're doing the research, so like 8,000, the management and business professional administration, I'm always in that area. Then you can't just click right here to research the app. You have to drill down and get everything. You click right, it's only going to get, you have to drill down and know what services. So what I did was I went and found all of them, wrote them down, put them in an Excel spreadsheet to find out what opportunities were they purchasing. So once I drilled down, got all this, put it in my Excel spreadsheet, then I went to see how many times have they purchased it, right? So then you have to close it so that way it stays in there. Okay, so now you didn't close it. Now these are the type of awards that's out here. They're telling you what they have. They have the public notice. I can't remember that one. I have to look that one up again. The PORF, that one. I think it's a purchase order request, but with state is different than federal. So I have to make sure I don't mix it up with federal. Then you have the request for information and pricing. Then you have the request for information. Then you have, these are the type of the things that the state lists on their website. So that's how I learned which things they were buying. The information for bid. They're telling you everything right here. Price only. If they're doing a cost breakdown, service fees, 10, the time of materials, everything is right here. So then also which authorities, what are we going after? Are we going after state and community colleges? Are we going after local government municipals? Are we just doing the state of Maryland government, university system of Maryland? What is it? Me, I was only trying to go after VB goals. So I was always only going after those. Because you've done all of this. You've done the you know what you want to go after. You've done the research, but then you have to look at why um so now this is, so that's why I say it's two parts, but then you have to go to the contract awards. So that's the reason why I had to walk you through the process of looking and checking to see what they're out there. So if I was to click on emergency, because you see they're telling you exactly what type of solicitation it is. They're telling you exactly what type of solicitation. That's why I wanted you to walk through and see the types over here, and then your category. What are you doing? The keyword search, it works sometimes, it doesn't. That's why I don't use the keyword search, because it's the feature sometimes works and it doesn't. But I know if I put the category in there and then hit search, it's going to come out. So that's why I knew this is why I do it this way. And then I've attended a lot of the Emma training too, because they had a wonderful presentation that walk you through how to make sure you're setting up your notifications, your profiles, and all of this, because that is how you position to win, because you're there, you're available, you have all your stuff. So when they go in there, the contracting officer or the program procurement officer, because the state calls it the procurement officer, goes in there and look for someone they're gonna search for you. That's why if you're not searching to see if you're going to appear up in those searches, then I mean, how are you going to get a hold to those people once you've identified it. So if we were to go look at the emergency procurement preparedness support, that's how you see that's a national defense and public order, security and safety. So that might be one of those opportunities we were just discussing. That's why it's important to see. That's why I go right here because, like I said, I've seen plenty of federal. Because I wanted to go back to that WBE. I haven't seen many or any WBE opportunities. I've only seen the MBE, VSBE, all the other ones. But if you have seen it, please let me know. Give me the link and everything, and I'll share it with the community, and I'll definitely add it to the next class. So that's why I wanted to make sure I covered this in here. But then when you go to the contracts, it's a little bit different. You're on the public contracts. After I've done my research to see what they're buying, I've seen exactly who they publish to. So I did the same thing again. I went to the advanced search. Then I wanted to know the procurement method. Was it an emerging? Was it expedited? Was it what was it? Was it a sealed bidding all those things to see, are they actually buying it? Because I'm positioning. Was it a small, was it a sole source? Was it exempt? Was it I'm checking everything because now I know that they're actually doing what they said they're doing. They are actually issuing out those sources sought notices. They're actually doing those emergency buys and stuff like that because this system will lock up on you. It'll do, and you'll just keep having to do stuff over and over again. So that's why I show you how to use it. So when you have time, you can go through. Then you can look at all of the commodity codes, same thing. But then expiring soon, because the reason why I say expiring soon, because how about you might they might contact your company to be one of those bridge contacts, or they need a direct award. There's different ways. So you can look at expiring soon contracts and expired contracts to see if they actually going out there to rebid, because you'll get the POC information, you'll get all that different things out there. So that's the reason why I'm thinking, that's the reason why I always make sure I go in here and research. So, for instance, I wanted to look up the sole source. So then I just looked up, did they have any sole source? They said they did. They had some sole source, and these are the individuals they sole source to. Then you can easily go in and just look at the information. Oh, we already know who the vendor was who got this opportunity. Then you can go in and look at the contract amount it was awarded for, who was the procurement person. So we know when you're looking at those expired contracts, then you can send them an email, maybe. But if it's an active solicitation, you can only send emails before the due date. So remember, if it's not a procurement forecast, then you can't do that. So that's why I always say be careful of when you're going trying to reach out to the contracting professionals. And so before, because I didn't pull it up, let me pull it up now. The Maryland procurement forecast. So you'll see it for this is where they also Maryland procurement forecast. So you can see this is where they also will let you know if they're gonna put something out here. So you looking at the procurement, the Maryland procurement forecast. And that's what I missed on the slides. I wanted to add that as well. So that way this is when you can still talk to them, because once they know you and they know that you provide medical consulting services, they'll always reach out to you for those direct awards. But until they know you, they don't even know you exist. They don't even know that your service is dependable or not dependable. So that's why I said, and then they have the video training on how to use this and go deeper into how to get a no bid, because that's the thing. You're trying to get the contract sole source to your company. That's basically it. And what do I do to position myself to be the person that they always call when it comes to medical consulting services? I I was there when I had they needed the data analytics. I have my past performance. I have my references. I have everything. I built the relationship with the agencies program managers. I offer this specialized service because I stay on their radar. So I'm emailing them every month to let them know, hey, I'm available, I'm available, I'm available. And then when they are, because I've not seen a lot, let me take it back to here. I have not seen when we're on the public solicitations, the state doing as many RFIs as the federal. So you would have to do that deep dive research to see if they are. And that's why I was showing you how the different agencies, you can go look up the different types of contracts and different things to see, are they doing that. But I have it on VBE, so let me take that off because that's for only veteran. But then you want to refresh it when you want to go back to everything again and just do your research. And sometimes it will save the research, sometimes it won't. So that's why I wanted to make sure that I let you know when you're doing these advanced search and the different types. So if you want to see if they're doing requests for informations, then I'm just going to search to see if they're doing requests. And they haven't did, but I only see one request for information out of all those different opportunities. And that was for the cleaning and janitorial. And then you go in, but I don't know, it could have been archived, so it might not. And they'll tell you the information is for internal planning purposes only. So that is why I'm trying to figure out exactly how to get those requests for informations or anything of that nature. And then the next one was, and then I'm going to stop for questions because I know I've been going on, but I wanted to make sure you understand how to use this because I know I'll get distracted if I stop. So that's why I make sure I get all this out here. Okay, let me go click on again. And then if you want to see if they got any requests for quotes, which is the easier ones to go after because mostly they're looking for pricing. And then these are the requests for quotes. And then now you see what they're looking for: the highway road maintenance service, the fire sprinkler services. And if say you sell fire sprinkler services, now I'm gonna go in there and look at who all buying those fire sprinkler services, but it's not going to be a no bid if everybody's doing it. So that's why it's important to know the categories and those specialized categories. So that way you are aware of what are they actually buying for the for those circumstances. So that's why I got to make sure with the state, because state, like I said, and county is different than federal. But I'm going to pause right there because I have went too long without answering questions. Okay.
Thanks, Akiesha. Yeah, we have some questions,
Okay.
so let's go through them.
Okay.
Okay. So let's see. Should we apply for MBE certification if WB opportunities are not available?
Well, I would definitely recommend because they always have MBEs. So let me go ahead. Let me just clear this again, and then look and see how many MBEs they have out here. Because MBE is the main one, the minority business. That's the one they're mainly telling small business to sign up for. So let me get that out of there, and let's look at the MBE goals and see how many they have for those. They have a lot for the MBE, and how you're going to tell for the MBE is once you go in the document, because so not so much I haven't seen it on here, but sometimes that's why sometimes I have to go in and look because they're saying it's the MBE, but where is it on here saying that it's the MBE? You see what I'm saying? So that's why you have to go through the attachments, and then once you see the exhibit, so yes, this is a MBE. Um, Opportunity, because sometimes they don't, it's supposed to be right here in this area. They'll tell you which type of opportunity is, but definitely go after your MBE. But it's a long process. It's a lot of paperwork with that MBE, so definitely get started sooner than later, because I'm telling you, I tried to go after the WBE and it was nothing. It was crickets. Only thing I was seeing was the MBE, the SBR. They had a lot of SBRs. They even had 5% for the veterans. So I didn't even try to do the WBE and pay all that money to have the people to do it for me, because sometimes they have those services, those third party services that will do the woman owned small business as well as the WBE. but I didn't see a need for either because I was a veteran, and I would partner with other small business. So that way, when we were going after veteran opportunities, I would be the prime. But if we're going after woman owned, then they will be the prime and I'm the sub. It's depending on how your strategy is and how you are trying to position yourself with your small business. So that's why it's important to see the what's out here. And that's why I always do this, because I mean this is the facts. This is the system they use to upload all of the opportunities over a certain dollar amount. And I'm trying to remember what the state's dollar amount is, because with federal we put everything over, I think it's micro purchase all the way up to the simple, all the way up. But with state, they have the procurement buys from 0 to 5,000, from 5,000 to something, then from 50,000. Theirs is totally different. So this is where you need to go to always check to see if they're out there. Okay, next question. I don't
Okay.
want to get too long on
Yeah, I know. Well, just following on from that, a couple of people in the chat said that
uh-huh.
one person said it took them 10 months to get their MB certification, and another person says they're still waiting and it's only they're 11 months in.
Duh.
So it does take a while. So like you said, the sooner you get started, the better. And then we have two questions that are similar
Hmm.
about sub-commodity numbers. They
Hmm.
want to know, is it better to associate yourself with codes that are specific to what you provide, or should you keep it as broad as possible so you don't miss out on opportunities?
Mm. Well, I would, you know what? I would try to do both, because when we're too broad, what I've noticed when I've come in here and search, so for instance, when you go in here and search for the commodities, and I'm going to say see all, right? When you put the commodity code, so like me, I'm that 8000. When I was not, I was doing broad only. I was missing out on a lot of opportunities. So I would just click on the eight, but the people had put it under the management advisory services, right? That 8011. So I didn't get the notification, because what I was doing was I was doing my save searches. So I'll get the notifications in my email. But I kept, and then I'll go check Emma to see, okay, well, wait a minute, why didn't I get this email? Then I went back to my company's profile and seen that I had to drill down completely. I was broad, but I was missing on opportunities that I could actually be contacted for. But that's why I said you can do them both. I mean, yes, we can be broad, but I'm telling you, when you don't drill completely down, you miss out on opportunities. So because I didn't know that that one came out, I didn't get the notification because I checks my notifications every day. I It was already been out there for what, 3 days, because when I went to Emma to check, I'm like, where did this come from? I didn't get a notification. Then you notice that your saved searches wasn't set up right. Or if you have now, we at the Apex Accelerator, they have the bid matching service, and then you still got to go in there and customize that too. And if you're too broad, you're gonna miss some things. But I like, the reason what I liked about the bid matching service that we offer, but it costs, it's a little price for it, but it's very easy and nominal compared to what's out there. And they would allow for the keyword search too, so they will pull with the keywords. But when I would type in here in Emma with keywords, I wouldn't get much out. So you would have to just use one word, project or something, but then you're getting all these other projects. So it was like, okay, how do I make it better so I can get the information I need, but not be too broad, but not be too narrow, so I don't miss out. So that's why I went in there and I looked up each one to see, okay, for the management advisory service, oh, dog, they only did about 6 or 7 of those this year. So we know I'm going to have to go get another one. Or when you go and look at this one for the business and corporate management consulting consultation services. But if you only click here, you're going to miss out on, what about if they had a strategic planning consultation services I wanted to go after, but I did not click that. Guess what? They put it under strategic planning consultation services. So guess what you did? You missed it. So that's why I said, man, that's a catch 22. We can't be too broad, but we can't be too narrow. But we want to know how the contracting or procurement officer is putting it in here. So when we want to get those no bid, and they going down that list to see who's qualified, we want to be called so we can get that sole source because we got the certifications, we got the expertise, we've positioned for this, we have the relationship. You want to be able to win those contracts.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks. And one more question.
Okay. Okay.
Do you know if Maryland makes bidding exceptions for companies that are waiting for their MBE certification?
No, no, I don't. What I would do is I would send them I will put my pending status or whatever paperwork I had, letting them know that I filed for it, because I know what federal, what when a woman owned small business was pending and a contract was about to be awarded or something like that, we could do some paperwork or something to get that go ahead and push through. So we'll go through and review because the client been waiting for 8 or 9 months. And they had those little exceptions. Now, I don't know if they do that with the state of Maryland, but I do know it's an ask, sending them, hey, I want to go after this opportunity. Because remember, they give you that Q&A time. So when you get that Q&A time, if you ask that question before Q&A time and say, "Hey, I've been 10 months, we still waiting, all this, I don't know." So that's why I said with with state, I do not know how strict they are, how lenient do they have waivers? Because I know in federal, for certain things we have waivers, but I don't know about the state. So I would definitely have to do some research with that. That was a really good question.
Okay, that's all the questions for now. We'll pause again later on.
Okay, good deal, good deal. All right, so let's get back to it. So now you understand why I go through this exercise, because explaining it, sometimes it get lost in translation. So but when I walk you through it, then you can kind of see, oh, this is what she was talking about, or this is how you check for the VBEs or the MBEs or the small business the different certifications to see, is it worth it. Now, don't forget about your vendor search, like say when you're looking for your vendor partner too, because this is how I found another person that I was working with. I went in here to see, were they veteran owned certified. So that way, if they're veteran owned, I'm veteran owned certified, and they veteran owned certified, then how are we going to split this? How are we going to do this or what? But no, I was looking for people who didn't have my certification. So when they needed me to be on their team, because I'm looking for teaming partners and teaming members. So when the contractor or the procurement officer reach out to me, I've already done my research. I already got people in my pool. I already got people who I already know what they have. And then I could go after the opportunity quicker. Yes, we can do this. And boom, now I got this sole source contract. It's about being prepared. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of things that takes place with being prepared for no bid contract. That's a sole source. That's why I keep saying this is a sole source, the direct award, and you have to meet these requirements and criteria to get those direct awards. And if you don't, then you're not going to get them. And let me go back to the slide because I want to make sure I don't miss anything on the slide. Two, prepare your justification pack. Okay, so state why your solution is unique and why competition is not feasible. So you already know your product, um, uh, what it is proprietary, the sensitivity, all those things. Get prepared before they reach out to you, so you already have that stuff. And make sure all your website, your LinkedIn, everything speaks to that solution. So when they go out and do their research or in the DSBS, because many times I've went in DSBS and none of your that's the dynamic search, um where the state but they don't use that so much. State doesn't use that so much. Federal does. I'm not sure if state uses that. State uses more of the Emma, the where I showed you in the vendor search. So I don't want to mix those up. I apologize. So that way you are prepared with your solution. So definitely have your company profile completely filled out. So when they go in the system to research, they can find you. So say if you do the traffic cams or you're doing the medical consulting services, use all those keywords. Use all the keywords that's unique. So when they go in there, so say you do the data, the unique health reporting requirements with the data analytics, then make sure you have those keywords in there. So that way they can see when they go and look and do their search, you'll pop up in their um in their thing. So, but I wanted to break down the example of the Maryland Department of Education curriculum development because I wanted to use that as my little case study, you will, showing you how to do that. We've already, and then how we engage the market research. I showed you how to go in there and start doing your market research, and then you see how they said emergency in there because those emergency ones that mean they really need it now. So that's what I've learned is look for those keywords they keep using to see which one, how are they, if you will, uploading those um, sole source or the direct awards or preferred, because they're going to go to the preferred vendor. And sometimes those preferred vendors are too high on their pricing. So then they'll be like, well, no, we're not going to use you because you're too high. And then they're going to try to find a small business to be able to award that contract to. But that's why I always say state is totally different. So in this example, the Department of Education issued that agent-specific contracted to their curriculum development because it was something like, what they needed. So then the developer had experience with Maryland school system too. So that was check number one because they had did they research, they've worked in the system, they've done all that stuff. So they met the requirement in many ways. So, like, that's why I always tell people, is that one of your target agencies? Did you get to know them? Have you been to an industry day? So, like, if my target agency is Veteran Affairs, or if it's the Maryland Department of Health, then I need to know everything about the Maryland Department of Health. So, when I was going after all those veteran opportunities, I'm always learning everything about that. So, you know who the program officer, who the division chief, who's the program, have they had an industry day so you can go and let them see you and then start getting to know, because what happens too is the procurement officer might find an opportunity and they have a prime but they need a subcontractor, and you want to be the one they contact if they need a subcontract, or they'll tell the prime contractor, hey, we got this other company is trying to, y'all could possibly work together, because we've done that before. We've had to help small businesses find them a partner. So in the event you want them to reach out to you, so you're trying to become the preferred, one of those preferred, but that's not the people. That's just in the, if you will, the procurement officers. Um, Rolodex, the old day we call it the Rolodex, but in their contact list. And so that's what you're trying to be, on their contact list. You want to be one of their preferred vendors as well. So when they can't use the preferred vendor, then they reach out to you. And the only way you're gonna do that is relationships. I mean, I'm telling you, I've seen it too many times. It's relationships, it's knowing people, it's no that, because then they know you. They're like, okay, I'm gonna reach out to Akiesha because I know Akiesha does this and she's responsible or responsive. But many times they'll send you an email, they'll give you a call, and you don't even answer your phone, you don't call them back, you don't even answer the emails that they're sending, and then they're just going to go down the list. So that's why is important to monitor all of that. So let me go back over here to Emma because I want to make sure I cover the last things in Emma, because I believe I got mostly everything. Okay, so remember when I was telling you about here and the vendor search, this is just different, and then always open up all of the um different things they have out here. So that way, when you go in here, say you need that veteran owned small business, and see if they'll click, and then you hit search. So that way you can find those veteran owned small businesses. If you need a veteran partner, or if they're saying, hey, this is a opportunity that we would like to go, but it's 5% vets, right? Because some of those opportunities I've seen have been 5% vets. So then you will go in here, but build a relationship before you need them. So if you want to put some veterans on your team, go ahead and do your research, see who's in your area, see if they're in your state, and you can have coffee or go out and meet them, or go meet them at an industry event to see if this is somebody you want to put on your team, right? And then you've built your team and database, you know who's in your team and database. So when they do come to you, because you've prepared for them to come, the contracting professionals to come to you and reach out for you, because you have been preparing to receive these no bid contracts, then you're ready. But this is how you get ready. You have to go ahead and start doing the work. You've already looked in here, you know what contracts that they have awarded. So take your time, go through each and every one of these, and find out what everything needs. Find out the state community college. So say you have a state community college in your area that you want, and you want to know if they have state, and then we want to know if they have the SBE goal. So then you go in here and then see if do they have any. Well, this one said no, they don't have that. So then why are we going after state community college with the SBE goal when you don't see it? Now this is for opportunities currently now. So that's why I said that's why you have to just look. You have to research everything. And look, these are just without the goals. And then you can go in here and see. Wait a minute, where I'm at. Oh, I'm in contracts. I apologize. Let me go back to solicitation because I wanted to be in the solicitations. Okay, here we go. All right, so let me go back here. And then we want to do the SBR designation. And then we want to hit search to see if they have any. And they do have some. And that's what I was telling you about. You see how they have the gap analysis study. Now these are all that was the strategic planning consultation. And this one's one, and it's telling you who is issuing with the Department of Commerce. This one is Department of Labor and all these different notices. So that's why doing this is going to save you a lot to see how these certifications are beneficial for your company. How are they making it? Um, how are you doing in forest going after these different opportunities because the state is different? And then the last thing before we get ready, because I'm gonna have to get ready to start closing, but I wanted to make sure I got all of the information out there that I had wanted to discuss. And then I have all of the questions from everyone. So that way when we give this class next time, I'll be able to add more examples. I'll be able to put more information in there because we're trying to really refine our training to make it interactive. So that way it's like a counseling session due to so many of the small business having to wait because there's so many coming into the service, and sometimes we don't have enough counselors to provide that support. So this is a general form where you can ask these questions so that way you can keep moving on until you are able to get in with your counselor. This is why this is so important that you understand how to do this research so when you get in those sessions. So we've seen that we wanted to go after, so say we wanted to go after this one, the strategic planning, then we did everything to see could this possibly be a sole source? Because what we're doing now is researching the stuff that's urgent and emergencies, the preferred vendors, stuff that they continually buy, the unique things, so that way it kind of limits the competition because we're going after things that everybody's going. It's like they just canceled a solicitation out here because it was 63 vendors that bid on that one contract, and then the solicitation was canceled. So that's why I said it's we're trying to get so until it's a specialty, so that way we offer that specialty, just like those surgeons and different ones. They do specialties so they can kind of limit the competition and then also win some opportunities because the goal is always to win. We going after all these opportunities and then not to win anything, not to be able to win any contracts. And so you see this one is a small business reserve, and then going and make sure you attending these pre-bid conference. Please do not, if they have a pre-bid conference, make sure you attend it because that's where you're going to see other teaming partners. You're going to see who else going after this opportunity, primes, sub people who looking for subcontracts and all that. And then one thing I've noticed too, because I'm not logged in, when you save it, if I'm not mistaken, you still can see the vendors um, information so that way you can communicate or reach out to them or if you want a partner or something like that, because sometimes I can see it and sometimes I don't, so it depends. I don't know because sometimes Emma be doing those updates, but get familiar with this system, looking up, and then get all the information out of here so that way you know exactly what they add asking you for, so that way if it comes back up again you're prepared, or if they reach out and they couldn't find anybody for the opportunity, so then you can be positioned to win. The goal of this class and this session was to teach you how to prepare, teach you how to be ready to win these no bid contracts. And then just learning how to find the information, because then it's not out there. It's not out there. And then if one of the procurement officers don't call you, don't spend too much time on that. Move on to the next one. Move on to the next one, and then circle back and contact, because we'll get stuck. We'll get stuck at trying to go to the same agency, the same organization, and you're not winning nothing. So therefore, you're not paying your employees. You're not paying yourself. So you have to get to a point where you're moving ahead. And as we close out on this curriculum development, because I want to finish getting through this, um, the best practice for agency specific contract is to focus on developing the specialized knowledge. Then you position your business as the expert within that agency, because they know you. They've talked to you. They've worked with you for years. They know you. I mean, they'll keep you on. They'll tell you about different opportunities that they're about to post on the procurement forecast. Is you want to be in the know. That's this all it all breaks down to, if you want to be in the know. Then as we continue to put this training together, I want to really dive into the preferred provider contracts. Now, that's the statutory advantage for that one, but that one is, they have that limited. But you can definitely get on the statewide and master contract. Those the pre-positioning advantages. So that way they're going to ask you the first, are you on the master contract? Yes, I am. So be looking out for when that statewide master contract is going to be added new, because I think it just passed. And I think that was last year around October, I think August or sometime it closed for, and that was for staffing. We were working on the staffing. So whatever one is your professional service it is, get on that master contract. Take your time and get on it. Then those indefinite quantity contracts, because they're scalable, they're flexible. You definitely want to get on that, because those are different ways that procurement officers can reach out to you directly. They can reach out because you've done the pre-work, you've done all that. And that way, because it's a sea, it's so many small businesses out here. It's so many. And what you're trying to do is stand out, so that way you're one of those small businesses that they're always reaching out to. If they're always doing studies, or if they're doing some kind of purchases and you sell those products, then you want to keep some on hand, or you want to keep your suppliers ready to receive, all those different things. And that's the goal, that what I'm trying to get, the really structured and really frame it, so that way we'll ask those questions and get them entered. And then so that way I will be able to build a frequently asked question slide, and those different slides that really help. So when you get the slides, then you can use that as a checklist, a little checkbook, because I always talk about those tools and resources that you can use and keep referring back to, and then you can share with your team and your team members and those who are working for you, or your subcontractors and stuff, so that way everybody's on the same sheet of music. Because in Maryland, those are the ways you have to um, do the MOBID contracts in those three levels. And that is through the COMAR, that's the Code of Maryland regulations. Then the county city level, you have to go. And what I do for each city is just Google it. Just if you're in Anne Arundel County Procurement Office, and then they'll have different rules, or make sure you don't have to have a certification when you're going after the county, because some of them, Prince George County, I do know you have to have that certification. And then the agency level, you have to know their rules and regulations for how you can reach out to them. But it's always best to reach out for these when the procurement forecast, when it's still out there, and then you can still ask your questions, because once it becomes a solicitation, basically there's no more there's no more talking, because they don't want to feel like there's any favoritism. We don't want any protests, because small businesses will protest, and then no one's getting the work. So that's important that you understand that. For the local and state, understand what a sealed competitive sealed proposal is, and then the sole source procedures. Be aware of those procedures and how long it could take, or what's involved, so that way when they do reach out, you're prepared and you're ready. So that way you can just move forward. Because I know they try to get it out there because it's urgent and compelling. I mean, it's urgent and it's an emergency. So that's why they're trying to hurry up and purchase it. So you have to be ready um, when they when they contact you. That's basically it. So we are at time. Like I said, my goal is to get this training very comprehensive. I'm really trying to develop this as sessions, counseling sessions, and keep you moving forward. So when you get in your session, those questions that didn't get answered and those private, specially specialized for just your company, then when you get in those sessions, you hit the ground running. All right, so now we open up for, let me go back to our slides. We're going to open up for questions. And I thank everybody for attending. These are the additional resources right here. Just do not, make sure you sign up because it takes a while. And then make sure you always go to sba.gov to check out all of their free resources. And then I always recommend, because Neil McDonald has been doing the GovCon chambers, and he does training every day at noon. So at lunchtime, just listen to his webinars. He has some great content out there that's going to help you in this game. Because if you can get these free resources that's going to add value, then use them. That way you can save your capital for payroll, for all those unexpected expenditures that you're going to have to pay when you're getting started with your small business. And now we have question time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Akiesha. So yes, we have a few minutes left. So now's your opportunity to ask Akiesha your questions, or ask her if there's anything, any slides you want her to go over again. So let's have a look in the chat box and see what we have coming in through. Let's have a look. Thank you for the information. As a new business, what's a realistic timeline to consider to prepare and win a successful contract? Is there a checklist available to reference?
Okay, so that's a good one. When you're new to government contracting, I always tell them you got to start making your own checklist for real. So when you find out anything, you just write it down. Okay, so I need to review how to write a proposal. I need to review on how to do those things, because I'm telling you, it takes a while, because you're learning how to build your business at the same time you're trying to go after opportunities. And so the business skills that you need to build your business, that's payroll, that's hiring people, that's onboarding, off business insurance, all that stuff. You're learning that, as well as, oh, by the way, you're trying to learn government contracting, or state, local, or federal. All of them do it different. So you have to identify which agency. Now, if I'm not mistaken, on our website, we do have a readiness checklist on there that gets you started on the Maryland Apex Accelerator. Yasmin, do we still have that checklist available
Yes,
for
in fact, I've just posted it in the chat.
Good. Because that checklist, you print it out. I'm old school. I print everything. I put it in my binder. I check it off, because we are visual people. Now you can have your digital copy as well. And that digital copy, I use that digital copy to when I'm traveling, because we have to do a lot of traveling. We have to go to those events. We have to do all that. So have your checklist, print it out, and start putting those things in that binder, so you can track on where you are and what's the status, what you're doing. Okay, what's the rules for this? So when you see those opportunities come up, or those words that you don't understand, you've already started building your glossary, your little abbreviations, your little checklist. So if I'm going after RFP, what's in that? If I'm going after RFQ, what's involved in that? If it's time and materials, what's involved in that? If I'm going after certification, what's involved in that? And you'll have those little dividers in there, and you'll put all that certifications. So that way, when you have to do it again, because you have to renew those certifications as well. So they're not a one and done. You got to renew them. So when you're first getting started, you got to learn, you got to start putting those pieces together. And it's going to be slow and steady at first. And then you're going to gain that momentum, and so forth and so on.
Okay, great. Next couple of questions. How do you get on the master contract list, and what is a sealed proposal?
Okay, the sealed bidding proposal. I mean, that's basically it's the okay, let me show you the master contracts. Hold on, let me go back to it right here. So you see the master contracts, that's on the Department of Information Technology. They have the statewide contracts, and to get on it, you have to come to here, and then they'll put a notification out there. I believe they sent it out in August. They were doing it like once a month or something like that. Because I'm telling you, they didn't change so much. So I'm having to get back used to their new format, because they always updating their websites. But if you start right here and you click on, it tell you, oh, they're just telling you the expired contracts right here, but it's right here and here. So if you're doing the hardware contracts, professional services contracts, it will tell you how to get on them. But I believe it was, let me see if this is the consulting and tech. Oh yeah, good. They didn't updated it. This is for the consulting and technology. They'll tell you when they're taking on new contractors. They'll tell you for the MBE participation, the SBE, and all of things, but they put the updates around here. So you just have to keep, and you see right here on the left-hand side, you'll see it say master contractors, the functional areas. They'll tell you agency services, contract oversight, and then the master. Let me see if it's on the master contractor law. No, they didn't even, they moved it again. So you see why you have to keep clicking on these different ones, because they move it when they get into their website updates. But if I'm not mistaken, it's on there, and you can find out where you need to go and then what the dates is. You just have to keep checking, because they have moved around a little bit. This could be right here, and then you go to their frequently asked questions, and they'll tell you how to get on it, when it's coming out for the different ones, because it's different for each one. So that's why it's not all in one location.
Okay, great. That seems to be all the questions so
Okay.
far. So I'd
Okay.
like to thank everybody for participating today. Some great information and some great questions as usual from our clients, which we really appreciate. I've posted a lot of links in the chat, resources that you can use, particularly our checklist, which is very popular, helps you get your ducks in a row. Akiesha's next class is in April, and it will be on how to complete and to utilize a dynamic small business search, which I think is really important, because we see a lot of our clients neglect to use what they can do the most with their DSBS. So definitely sign up for that. And then we also have a business roundtable coming up in person, and it's going to be March 28th in Riverdale, Maryland, just a stone's throw from the campus. And that's going to feature a lot of our, well, 4 of our successful clients and DoD representatives and Representative Glenn Ivey. So again, if you're interested in that, please do sign up for that. All right, well, thank you, Akiesha, and I'd like to thank everybody for participating today. And we hope to see you next month. Take care, everyone.
All right,
Bye-bye.
take care. Bye.